Welcome to Recipes Recommended. Today our recommendation, French onion soup, is a classic. There hasn't been a French onion soup recipe I've found yet that I absolutely love, so I've taken what I've learned over the years and have made the most consistent, delicious version I could using foolproof techniques, which I'll explain as we make it today. We hope you enjoy it. Before we begin, we want to quickly mention that we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. Thank you so much for your support in helping us grow and learn alongside you. We also kindly ask that if you have a recipe that you'd like us to try, please contact us in the comments section or on our website, recipesrecommended.com. Now on to the recipe. To keep things simple, I'm using traditional ingredients here, but French onion soup is so flexible that you don't have to be super picky about the onions, bread, or even the cheese. Just know that you need all of them in some form or fashion. The very first ingredient is at least 2.5 pounds of sweet onions, which will feed about 4. That's a standard size you can find at the grocery store. Peel them and thinly slice them using a mandolin if you have one. If not, just take your time and don't worry if some of the slices are thicker than others. Next, melt at least a whole stick or half cup of butter in a stock pot over medium-low heat. Then add the onions. I recently read that you'll yield about 1/4 of the volume of onions once they're caramelized, but I actually think it's less. You can be the judge and let me know in the comments. Once all the onions are nestled in the pot, along with some freshly ground black pepper, I add a generous amount of salt, maybe up to 2 teaspoons. The salt helps to break down the onions faster and speeds up the cooking by drawing out the moisture and softening them. It's definitely an important step you don't want to miss early on. For deeper caramelization, I also add some sugar. After the onions start to become translucent, I tuck in a healthy amount of fresh thyme, usually 2 or 3 sprigs. Cooking French onion soup my way takes a long time, maybe 4 times as long as other recipes. However, I think the extra time cooking down the onions properly is worth it. Once the volume of onions have reduced to about half their original size, you'll notice the thyme leaves have been stripped from their tiny branches. This is a good time to fish them out as you can easily find them. Keep stirring and taking your time. Now is a good time also to monitor the bottom of the pot. You may start to hear the onions sizzling while cooking and a dark brown fond developing. Don't worry, the onions aren't burning, but now is the time you have to keep a close eye on the onions. Keep using your spoon to loosen the fond. The moisture in the onions will naturally help you deglaze the pot. We want the onions to get as dark as they can without burning, and I promise that as long as you're stirring them every few minutes, they won't. I'd say these onions probably cooked for close to 2 hours over low to medium-low heat. Most recipes will have you do this step in a fraction of the time. I guess the idea of a faster soup recipe is appealing, but you don't get the depth of flavor as you do when you slowly caramelize your onions. At this point, we'll be more hands-off. We add our stock. I prefer beef stock, but you can definitely use chicken or vegetable stock. Additionally, 2 ounces of brandy join the party. You can also use white wine if that's all you have. I like adding it now, but some prefer to add it while the onions are cooking down to help deglaze the pot. It also adds a lot of flavor, and you shouldn't skip it. Let this soup simmer for at least 30 minutes uncovered. While you do that, now is a great time to prep your cheese and bread, which will top the soup and are required garnishes. The classic choice is Gruyere, but any gooey melty cheese is fine. Other suggestions include Emmental or even Fontina. As far as bread, using French bread is a great choice, and try to cut 1/2 inch slices roughly the same size as the bowls you'll be using. It's a good idea to toast the bread ahead of time so it won't get soggy. Think of them as delicious cheese rafts for your soup. The final step before enjoying the soup is to top the soup with the toasted bread and a fistful of shredded cheese before broiling it until bubbly and golden brown. French onion soup crocks get notoriously hot when they come out of the oven, so make sure you keep that in mind when serving. As a final note, use whatever onions you have on hand. If you only have a combination of white onions, red onions, and shallots, maybe even some garlic, use them. It'll turn out great, I promise. Also, experiment with different cheeses and herbs. Like I said, I cook it a little differently than you'll likely see it in cookbooks. It takes a long time, and I always think it's worth it. Also, if you have a little left over, however unlikely that is, it's amazing on a French dip. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting the like button, commenting, and subscribing. We'll also be publishing a corresponding blog post with more of my thoughts and experiences making this recipe. You can find that and the recipe on our website, recipesrecommended.com. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget, great minds eat alike.